What's up, guys? My name is Chris, and this is my Bloodborne lore. So we ended last time talking about Byrgenwerth, and we're still going to talk about them a little bit more in this episode, maybe to clear some things up, clear stuff up for myself more than anything, and kind of really explain them, and then we're going to talk about Rom, and then ultimately end really with the School of Mensis, and I think we're going to talk about them a little bit too in this episode. So to begin, what really ended Byrgenwerth, right? We talked about them. We talked about who they were. We know kind of who they were. There were some things I left out, but I kind of did on purpose, and we're going to talk about those things here. But you know, they were this school. You know, they experimented. They wanted eyeballs on the inside. That's what they thought would bring them to greatness. What reasonings behind that and stuff we're going to look at today. But what ended Byrgenwerth? What was the real reason why it got destroyed? And who the hell locked it up, right? I mean, you can take it for face value, and I would, because that's part of the reason, I think is the reason, actually, why Byrgenwerth. But something caused all that experimentation, right? There had to be some reason. And it wasn't what they found. Well, partly was what they found in the lab, but not all. So, but the first thing I want to kind of clear up to myself, actually, more than anybody, is that Laurence wasn't necessarily the one that blocked up Byrgenwerth. It says that the Healing Church deemed it forbidden grounds, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the ones that locked it up, right? It doesn't mean that they're the ones that put the key to it. They just said that don't go there. That place is forbidden. But it doesn't mean that they put the door up and locked it up. And the reason why I think that is because really it doesn't look like, why would you would have to find the key over in the like the way the game, if Laurence was the one that locked it up, the Healing Church locked it up, you would find the key somewhere over on the other side of the Healing Church, or after you kill Vicar Amelia, and then you would get the key, and the key would unlock the door, you know, and all that stuff. But for some reason you need to know this password, and you get it through a cutscene between Willem and Laurence, and that's the only way you learn it. So, and the password is done by a servant, so we know that from face value, we know that, to me, Byrgenwerth was locked by Willem, since we know that the gatekeeper was one of his loyal servants, and Dora's was the other one. They were sent into the tombs, and they went mad, which we know in the game means they gained some eldritch truth right down there. They gained some kind of knowledge down there, some insight or whatever. However, they were still loyal to Willem even after going mad. I find it really interesting that you know Dora's name, but you don't know the gatekeeper's name. You don't know his name. He just called password gatekeeper. This could But the reason why they locked it, right, why he put a password on the door, was because maybe Willem was afraid of the old blood, and he knew that Laurence was the one that took it over and gave it to Cainhurst and started up the Healing Church and all this other stuff. So he wanted to kind of block that away from his people and kind of setting a boundary, right? I also think there's other reasons why he did it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk a little bit more about the School of Mensis. Not saying that Byrgenwerth and School of Mensis exist at the same time, but you'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. Laurence, on the other hand, didn't want anyone to go over to Byrgenwerth, so that's why he considered it forbidden. He just didn't want anyone to go over there. He knew he would know the password, right? He was a scholar. I mean, unless he just forgot all of a sudden. But I'm pretty sure he would know the scholar, but he just didn't care about what was going on over there because he believed what he was doing, right, was what was going to evolve the human race. Willem believed what he was doing was going to evolve the human race. Could they both have been right? Could they both be wrong? Who knows? They both kind of had their own, how would, like, I wouldn't say, you could really just say they both had their own gods, right? Laurence believed in the moon presence and Oedon. Willem believed in, well, we're going to find out who that is, but I'll give you a hint. I think it's more he believed in Cosm. And we'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. Now, he may not directly known that's what he was believing in, because he may not have seen it or understood it, and that may be where the choir comes in, where they kind of understand that, or even the School of Mensis. But Willem is ultimately leading towards that, and that's why he's dealing with eyeballs. Laurence is dealing with blood, forbidden blood, and whatnot. So what exactly happened is hard to say, right? But in the end, a lot of it doesn't even really matter, right? There's all this stuff going on, and sometimes some of it's interesting to know, but it doesn't matter. In the end, it just doesn't even matter. I need to stop quoting Linkin Park. Every time I say it, I'm like, God, that's a freaking song. So they both just essentially failed, right? But in their failure doesn't necessarily mean that they were wrong completely, right? And you kind of see that kind of thing going on in the game, especially when you look at, the Healing Church tried to use phantasms to reach another plane of darkness or whatnot, but it failed, an explosion happened, blah, blah, blah. And then the choir acquired, well, that's hard to say, the choir acquired their their awesome little spell in the game. So you can see that, again, I'm bringing up the topic that, one failure will lead to another successes. And that's kind of what I believe happened here. Laurence and Willem failed. They didn't get what they wanted. Could they have gotten what they wanted over time, and if they had a lot more resources and whatnot, blah, blah, blah? Maybe what they were doing wasn't necessarily actually failure, but it led to the destructions of both their areas, basically. And I think the choir, living on past Laurence, kind of saw this. And they really became established, right? And we talked about the choir, what happened to them. There may have been a long time where they existed and the Healing Church existed and they were just doing their thing because that's what was being done, right? That's where you get like Ludwig and all this other stuff. That's just what was supposed to be done. However, the choir stumbled upon something, and that happened in the labyrinth, where they found his chalice or whatnot, and they got in touch with what they found out to be the cosmos, and something completely different. Now, the first time they saw the cosmos was probably with when they first met the moon presence, kind of got their minds tinkering. That's why they were down in the labyrinth looking for something more. Then they found something else, and you see that with the Tomb Prospector's clothes. If I say that correctly. The Healing Church traces its roots to Byrgenwerth and is therefore aware of the rune's true importance. That they contain much more than mere hunter trinkets. Indeed, they hide the very secrets of the old great ones, sought after by those with the insight to imagine greatness. So we know that they're down there, and they know that there's something else there. They stumble upon it, they meet Ebrietas, or however you want to say that, and they understand and they start realizing the cosmos and its true potential. Now, what do they do, and what would like the School of Mensis come from, right? Who are they? Well, I think the School of Mensis is like another part of the Healing Church, and they're kind of like they seem to be what they call like the unseen part, and they could be separating themselves on purpose, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this whole time, all this crap is going on, all this shit's going on, right? The hunts continued. They continued. No one stopped them. Why didn't they stop them? Why wasn't the choir like, F you, moon presence, F you? We don't want to be in this contract anymore. Is it because they can't stop it? That might be true. Maybe it's not possible to stop it. You can't just like end this contract and be like, nah, we're done. But I think they've found some advantages from it, and I think one of the, or actually I say two very good reasons, is they were getting blood and eyeballs from it. So the choir, after Laurence passed, started to venture into the labyrinth. Like we said, they found their answers and whatnot. And I think they started realizing that Laurence and Willem were probably both right, and that you need blood and eyeballs to succeed in evolving, not just necessarily one or the other, because they both failed when they were using it. So the choir naturally would probably be like, well, maybe they're both right. They could have went the other way and been like, maybe they're both wrong and we just need to stop this. But, they've seen things. They've gone mad. They know that these things exist. So they're like, something is truthful here about this, but we're not doing it right, maybe. So, and I think fake Yosefka, I should say, is a good idea behind this, right? She was using Yosefka's blood, her manufactured blood, I should say, and eyeballs that she gained on the inside from who knows what, by being in the choir. And we kind of see that through her story arc. Now, Yosefka's blood says this refined blood is highly invigorating, restores a larger amount of HP, the product of a slow and careful refinement process. This rare blood vial appears to be a clinic original. So this blood real Yosefka was making, is refined, is pure, right? What does that mean, though? What is pure blood? When we look at the vial, it's what, I think it's yellow, if I remember right, and it's not red anymore. It's pale, kind of leading down to the idea of pale blood and what it is, right? It's really great ones. It's really pure great one blood, I guess you would be the best way of explaining what it is. Fake or real Yosefka figure out a way to kind of use that. Well, fake Yosefka learned about this somehow, one way or another, and is using that plus the stuff she knows about the choir and an insight to really become the chosen one, so that she can either have a baby or turn into one herself, right? And that's really interesting, and you kind of see that through her story arc. So we kind of see the idea of the combination of eyeballs and blood and how that's helping them become evolved and having these babies more and more, right? Or maybe finding a way for them to figure out exactly what is needed. It seems to be very rare for them to come across this occurrence of these people getting pregnant by these great ones. Although in our game it happens, at least 3 times? Well, twice, because it happens to fake Yosefka and Ariana if you do it right. And both of them have quote-unquote pure blood in them. One has forbidden blood mixed with her own blood, but it's very strong, right? And then fake Yosefka uses the blood that is manufactured by real Yosefka to kind of get there. And then both of them, well, the interesting thing is a little bit about Ariana. Does she know, does she have some insight on things? It seems like she would be. She has the blood of the Canehurst people inside her. But, does she have the insight necessarily to make it? She knows about the hunts and things like that, it appears. So, she's a very interesting character as well in the game, and we don't know so much about her. But we do know that fake Yosefka was part of the choir and blah, blah, all this stuff, so she would know about eyeballs. Remember, the headgear on the choir is a testament to Willem and his ideas about how eyeballs will reach us to another plane and whatnot. So the choir, however, like I said, they had the right idea, and they're not using these hunts to collect eyeballs, right, from all the people who died. This kind of, but they probably didn't even really care if they were alive or not after a certain point. It seems like, if you really take a good look at the person who's inside Oedon's chapel, he kind of sits there and he's a blind beggar guy without any eyeballs. So it's just very interesting to see that maybe after a while they didn't even care if you died or not. You also look at the eyeball ritual ingredient, and it states that these look like they were taken from the dead, possibly not even that. They were taken from people who were alive. The witch enemies throughout the game, they try to scoop yours out the whole time too. So that's what they're doing, by the way, when they grab you. At first, when I started playing the game, I was like, what the hell are they doing to me? What is that weapon? What are they trying to do? They're trying to scoop your eyeballs out. So Hemwick Charnel started collecting more dead bodies after these hunts, and after hunt and after hunt. And I think it's a good way of the game trying to show you how long this has been going on, right? There's all these dead bodies, so many dead bodies, and I don't think all those dead bodies just happen after one hunt. Like, this is something that's been going on and on and on and on and on for who knows how long, right? The hunt could happen every weekend for all we know. This hunt has been going on like crazy. And the Charnel is really there to show you that. Plus that they were trying to get these eyeballs, because that's what the witches at the end were for. So once the choir found the cosmos, they stopped caring about the church workshop. This is probably why the time that they locked it up. If you remember through the game, and the way the game is built is that you have the church workshop. It goes up, and then the upper part connects to the upper cathedral area, which you need a key to in the game. However, at one point, more than likely, that was unlocked and they were connected. But someone finally decided to block that up and lock them out from the choir. And I think the tomb armor, that tomb spark that was closed, kind of speaks to that segregation too, right? They saw the hunters as inferior. They're like, you're doing something that was in the past. We don't need that anymore. Even though they're kind of going against the Great One and his idea of how he's gonna, reproduce and whatnot. They're like, no, we're trying to evolve ourselves, and you guys aren't really going to be helping us anymore. And you're the era of Laurence. We're new. We're the choir. This is what we're doing. But there was another part that came from the church, and that's the School of Mensis. So if you look at the upper cathedral ward key, it says that the upper echelons of the healing church are formed by the School of Mensis, based in the unseen village, and the choir, occupying the upper cathedral ward. This key brings one step closer to the choir, because that key unlocks the upper cathedral area, which is where the choir says is from that key. However, the School of Mensis looks to be kind of different, right? I don't necessarily think this, it's sometimes, you look at it, and I sighed right there because I was like, there could be ways to look at it differently. But you have the healing church, which is kind of like the lower area, more in tune with the people. And then you kind of have above them, you have the choir, right? And you have the School of Mensis. I don't think like it was the choir and then the choir split up into the School of Mensis and the choir. Like I think these two existed this whole time, and I think it's really show that the School of Mensis was hidden. Like they were kind of doing their own thing in the background. I think this is another good time to talk about how if you get the guide, I keep hitting my mic. If you get the guide and you really look at it, you start looking at the names of people, you start realizing that there were probably spies throughout the game. And what I mean by spies is not spying on you necessarily, but spying on each other, right? So I think one of the good examples is a guy named the Intelligencer, and you don't get his name through the game. You have to get it from the guide. His name is the Intelligencer, and which is another way of just saying spy. And you fight him actually at the Nightmare of Mensis on the bridge before you enter the area where you find Mikolash. So these spies exist, and Fake Yosifka could be another great example of the spy, right? The choir seems to have these guys, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. Maybe they're kind of the good guy. Maybe they're trying to figure out what exactly is going on, or what they can use to maybe proclaim themselves. Figuring out how to achieve greatness. And I think the School of Mensis and the choir, not necessarily. The School of Mensis kind of gets nuts. Like they kind of turned evil almost in a certain way. Well, I mean, you can pretty much say they were kidnapping people, and they were trying to take your eyeballs out. And they had, and then when you get there later on after Rom, things kind of go nuts there. So you could see them as being a little more evil. The choir, on the other hand, seems to think that they're helping people, and I guess you could say the School of Mensis thinks that too. But they all think they're helping people. They're just doing it very, very evil-like in any regard you want to look at. So, like I said, the School of Mensis just looks to come from a different place. They also seem to be the most recent thing going on once you start the game. So I think that's what I was trying to say earlier was, the School of Mensis seems to be the thing at the time you start the game. The choir seems to kind of be at disarray, and they don't really know what's going on either anymore because they don't see a lot of them. But the School of Mensis seems to be like, this is what you're doing, this is your objective, and you kind of go in there, and once you destroy, or you kind of enter that area and you defeat the Great One of that area, that's kind of the end of the game. So it's just very interesting to see this. So they're kind of the thing, right? Now, taking away Mikolash and Murgo, and you just pay attention to the Unseen Village, we take away all these things, all this stuff, blah blah. They seem to be kidnapping people. There are witches trying to take your eyeballs, and then later there's the creatures that are dead, and the creatures made of body parts, and then there's Mensis cages, and most important, you have the amygdalas or amygdalas, I think is the way the game says it, just hanging around, some even outside the hidden village. They're very, you have a lot of facts about them. The choir, you have the upper echelon, you have Ebrietas, you have the celestial, the celestial being, or whatever they want to call it. And then you have the area up there with the little things running around that Ariana gave birth to. Not much else. I mean, you learn about the orphanage, a very brief little bit about the orphanage, and there's not much. But the School of Mensis, you learn so much. You go through so much stuff with them, and it's just very interesting. And I think they really want you to understand that, because that's kind of the end game, right? It's kind of where this video game, if you beat this, you're done. That's the point. So the first thing is Mensis is unseen. They reside in what they call the Unseen Village, not the church. They don't live in the upper echelons. They are part of the upper echelons of the church, but they don't live in the upper echelon. They don't live in the upper cathedral. They live in a place called the Unseen Village, and they seem to want to stay unseen. And it seems like they're trying to hide, right? They don't want to be known about what they're doing. They want to just keep away. They kind of block themselves out from the rest of the world. In a weird way, kind of looks like the way Byrgenwerth was possibly kept hidden as well. Like they were blocking themselves away from the world too. Looks like everybody was just trying to keep away from what was going on in Yharnam and all the hunts and things like that. Maybe the School of Mensis was afraid, of the moon presence, because maybe they thought that if they got wind, the moon presence got wind of what they were doing, they may have been the ones getting hunted. And it kind of seems like they were right, because that's kind of what your objective is. So once you defeat Rom, you get this cutscene with this pale lady. The moon presence gets stronger. He's like, yeah, figuring it out now. You destroyed the thing that was kind of blocking me from what the hell was going on. Now I'm a red moon again. A lot of stuff happens after you get to that point. And then you're teleported right in front of the Unseen Village. And I think the moon presence is really what did that. But He could have used the water from the lake, and we'll talk a little bit about that water. But Rom seems to have been protecting that village, unseen village, right? That's what it looks like. It looks like Rom was protecting these things from being seen. But I think actually it's not necessarily Rom was doing that. Remember, Rom is the vacuous spider. He's empty-minded, or he's just being used, I think, is really what I think the game wants to make you understand, is that Rom isn't a creation of the School of Mensis or the creation of the choir. He's just being used. He's something that was created, not necessarily a very long time ago, but he was created at Byrgenwerth. And you get those two notes that say, the Byrgenwerth spider hides all manners of rituals and keeps our lost master from us. A terrible shame. Makes my head shudder uncontrollably. You find that at the tomb of Oedon, or right before the central cathedral. Not the great cathedral, but the one where you find the blind monk who wants to help everybody out. Then you later on find one at Byrgenwerth. You see, the Byrgenwerth spider hides all manner of rituals. It starts the exact same way. Certain to reveal nothing, for true enlightenment need not be shared. So you get these two notes. The first one you get like way before you even meet Rom or who he is. The second one you get right before you fight him, pretty much, if you look at it right before you fight him. And you kind of get a little bit of a tidbit about what this is, right? It seems to be blocking stuff from the rest of the world, whether it's blocking it from the dream or blocking it from whatever. It seems to be controlling the ability to stop people from seeing what they want to see. And you get that also from the lake rune, right? The transcriptions of a great one's inhuman voice ripples like a watery reflection. The rune means lake, and those branded by it enjoy augmented defense. Great volumes of water serve as a bulwark guarding sleep, an augur of the eldritch truth. Overcome this hindrance and seek what is yours. You get a ton of these types of runes. You get this one, you get like Arcane Lake, you get ones that protect you from poisons, one that protects you from curse. Was it curse? I don't think that's what it is, but it protects you. God, what is it now? I can't remember. The one that just like destroys your health if they're at clock. I can't remember. That's insane. I can't remember. I can't remember because I blocked that out of memory because I hated it so much. That one, poison, there's one that blocks bow, there's one that gives you arcane defense, there's one that gives you straight defense, there's one that defends everything. You get all these different runes about this lake, and they all have the same description. Great volumes of water serve as a bulwark guarding sleep, and an augur the eldritch truth. So someone outside the Byrgenwerth, maybe a Healing Church member, says the first one, right, is blocking them from their lost master. A note at Byrgenwerth says that it's revealing nothing in it, and that, true enlightenment need not be shared. Other things that are kind of interesting to note is that we find a statue of something that looks like Rom inside the upper cathedral ward, and it seems like Ebrietas is praying to it or kneeling to it. Could Rom have been a creation, or was it just worshipped by the upper echelons of the church? We also know that Mikolash states that Cosm granted it eyes. So we can understand that Cosm's catalyst seems to be eyes on the inside, right? Oedon, remember, is the forbidden blood. So Cosm seems to be kind of this idea of eyes on the inside, right? So here's my speculation on this. Now with all that being said, right, those are some of that was speculation, but here's kind of what I think is kind of going on here. What's going on? What's up, right? I think Rom was created at Byrgenwerth, right? That's what most people believe, and I think that's true. And I think it was granted eyes by Cosm. However, I also think Rom was using blood. The person, whoever turned into Rom, used some of the forbidden blood as well. Because why would he be the only one chosen by Cosm if everybody there, there was something different about it. Now, the way I look at it is, this is kind of funny because it's really speculation. Is that Willem saw the giving of eyes to Rom, and that led him down, the path that eyes is what leads to a different plane. Laurence saw the scholar using blood, and that's what led Laurence to thinking forbidden blood was the key, right? Not necessarily the eyes. It's just the way they looked at this incident that happened. They think they both know what's going on. So from that, kind of builds this separation between Willem and Laurence, when in reality it's both of those things, and that's what the choir finds out, and it's kind of why they're worshiping Rom, because that's what they kind of figured out once they started getting back you know, when they started visiting Byrgenwerth after it was destroyed for so long. If you looked at the Lunarium Key, remember it states that Willem, so fond of his lookout on the rocking chair, he kept there for meditation, and in the end it said he left his secret with the lake. So it's possible that no one knew of Rom, and the reason, and it's possible not that no one knew of Rom. Rom existed. Willem and Laurence knew of Rom, right? The School of Byrgenwerth probably knew of Rom because we see these notes being left about. However, I think Rom was being kept by Willem and locked up in Byrgenwerth, and I think that's truly what Willem did. So I think that's the other reason why we were locked away from Byrgenwerth, is because he wanted to lock Rom there. Could he have been using Rom as a prisoner in experiments and stuff like that? Sure. I mean, there's more than enough evidence showing that that's quite possible. Could be where all those fetuses came from, and he's trying to figure out how to get these eyes, you know, just like Rom did. And Rom wasn't necessarily the reason Byrgenwerth was destroyed. Like, Rom didn't go crazy and he didn't destroy it. But he was the one that led to the inquiry, and that inquiry is ultimately what led to the destruction of Byrgenwerth. So all this experiments and stuff like that. So with all that being said, you know, the choir figured some of this stuff out. The School of Mensis figured some of this stuff out. Because it's possible the choir and School of Mensis talk to each other. It's not like they hate each other or anything. Not yet anyways. And they figured out that this is kind of the way to go. School of Mensis kind of took things a different way, while the choir kind of went a different way as well, and that's kind of why they split up. But it looks like they found Rom, and that they may have been using the water from the lake that he was in to create the baths, and I think it was the baths that really kept them hidden, right? Because this water is guarding the dreams, right? In this game, dream is basically reality. So you might as well just, anytime you see the word dream, just replace it with the word reality, because that's basically what they are. Anything in this game that's a dream is real. It may seem like it's in a different or far off place, and to us it may seem unreal because you can walk through a door and end up somewhere else. But you know, this game, that's reality. That's how it works. So, and you see these baths everywhere, and in fact, when you defeat Rom, you get teleported to a bath. I think these baths and things like that were used to kind of keep them hidden, and the School of Mensis kind of figured this stuff out. Like I said, Rom wasn't necessarily created by School of Mensis, but they were definitely using him to kind of be kept unseen. And then they used it to guard what they were creating, which was a nightmare. So that ends this episode. In the next episode, we will talk about the School of Mensis. And I don't know, I keep saying that we're going to end the next episode, and then I end up talking about other crap so much that it doesn't happen. So hopefully it keeps going though. So that's going to be that. Coming up, I've been playing a lot of Galactic Civilization 3. If you like 4X games, if you're into those things, I would definitely check it out. Like a 4X game is like Civilization, any of the Civilization games, 4 or 5, whatever you play, 3, 4, 5. So if you like those kind of games. Also, I've been checking out Heroes of the Storm, and my friend almost got me back into WoW. He almost got me back in the WoW, but I can be proud and say I resisted. Maybe not for a while. It might just happen all of a sudden. Sometimes I just get this itch to play an MMO, and WoW seems to be the one I always go back to. I don't know why. And then I'll stop playing for like 4 years, and then I'll go back to it for some reason. And then next week, super excited, but we will have The Witcher. Witcher 3 is coming out, so definitely check that game out. If you liked any of the other previous Witchers, it's a great game. But anyways, guys, that's the end of this episode, so I will definitely check you guys out next time. Peace out.